Football season's almost here, and DraftKings, the leader in one-week fantasy sports, is giving you a shot to be crowned the first-ever fantasy football billionaire. Draft the perfect lineup Week 1, and you could win $1 billion. Just use code REPLAY to play in DraftKings' free Week 1 contest with $100,000 in total guaranteed prizes. And if you draft the perfect lineup, you can win $1 billion. It's free. Why wouldn't you try? DraftKings.com. Code REPLAY. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
We are. Good morning. Back in better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, sending love and good wishes and anything else we have down to Houston and the surrounding areas, with the reminder that even at a time when our country feels almost unprecedentedly divided, at times of true need, Mike, the images on our screens always remind us of the courage and the altruism of Americans. Watching people down there doing whatever they can do to help has been just inspirational. And I don't know that our saying that necessarily helps anybody, but I know we speak for everybody when we say I salute you to the people of Houston and the way they have rallied around an extraordinary catastrophe in their community.
Yeah, I don't think our saying it, those people are out doing it, and they do it without thinking. And that was something that we mentioned yesterday, that certainly the first responders who are used to running the wrong way into danger, that's what they do. And they're great at it. We respect them for it. But when the normal neighbor, the normal person just walking the streets, the normal Joe, the normal Jane just goes out of their way to run the same way to help somebody. It's just, and it's a shame. We praise them for that, but unfortunately, it's in the full view of just a horrific catastrophe that's going on down there.
One of the things is that this is one of the first times that we've had something like this happen in the era of social media being as prevalent as it is. So we just didn't see, going back to something like Katrina, we didn't see all of these photos. You would see it on the news, but you wouldn't just see it constantly. Now there's that picture of that young woman with the dog on her shoulders, and she's carrying through this tall water, and people pulling up in cars and just dragging people into their cars and driving them to wherever they can go to get them because they're walking around carrying their possessions with them. It's just it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's unimaginable. And I know we're looking forward to getting back down to Houston whenever we can. But obviously they have a lot of work to do. A lot of work to
do. A lot of great donations coming in as well, and those obviously will need to continue coming in to help, not just for what's going on now, but the rebuild is just going to be incredible. But yeah, the sights of what we're seeing, it's a shame, as I said, in the view of what's going on down there. People just checking cars, making sure nobody's in them, checking homes, making sure nobody's trapped anywhere, and helping where they can is an incredible sight of the. Of how humans can treat each other, when times get very, very horrific.
There are a variety of sort of sports angles to this, of the way it is impacting sporting events. We will certainly get to those as the morning continues here, including one of them relatively quickly on some games that are rescheduled. And there's a little bit of a controversy about the way baseball is handling it, and we'll talk about that as well. But first and foremost, to the people in Houston, we salute you for the courage that you're showing through an extraordinarily difficult time. Meanwhile, to the sports headlines of the day, let's go here, Mike. The Rays beat the Royals 12-0 yesterday. Now, you may be saying, well, why is that so significant? It's just one of the games being played yesterday. Doesn't even sound like the most important one.
No.
Well, Mike, why was this so significant?
Well, because now the Royals are the first MLB team to be shut out in 4 straight games since the 92 Cubs. Remember, before this game, they got shut out in the series against the Indians. They're the first AL team in the DH era, which is 1973 and on, to be shut out in 4 straight games. The last AL team to do it was the 1964 Senators. They've gone 43 straight innings without scoring a run. The Royals led the Rockies 2-0 on Thursday and have since been outscored 35-0. They're the first team to allow at least 35 unanswered runs since the 1906 Brooklyn Superbas. Do you know anything about the Superbas?
I really don't.
Well, I do, and after off the top, I'll give you a little some info.
I look at the look on Hamlet's face.
Absolutely.
Do we have a nickname I'm really going to like?
We got a cute little story.
Okay. Off the top. Looking forward to that. Meanwhile, welcome back Maria Sharapova. How about this? She goes out there. Those of you are probably aware that she was suspended 15 months because of a PED situation. She gets a wild card into the draw at the U.S. Open, winds up randomly selected to play the number 2 player in the world, Simona Halep.
Yeah.
And last night, Mike, she knocked her out.
So Simona Halep had to be going, really?
Yeah.
Really?
They do a lot of things.
This is what happened. But Halep, this is the 4th time she's lost her opening match at a major as a top 5 seed, 2 more than any of the women since the start of the Open era, which is 1968. But Sharapova, she is the first wild card to beat a number 2 since Kim Clijsters defeated number 2 Serena Williams in the semis of the 2009 U.S. Open. Clijsters went on to become the first and only woman to win the U.S. Open from a wild card. Now, that was after a pregnancy.
Right.
So never really that true, wild card, you know.
And Sharapova the same way.
Sharapova the same way. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
These were excellent
These are not people
players
from nowhere. Sharapova is a wild card because she hasn't played in a year and a half.
And again, that's why the number 2 seed is going, really?
Exactly.
Halep is saying, are you kidding me? This is who I draw?
They just put Sharapova in there with all the rest of the wild cards, and they just, I don't know if they literally pull them out of a hat, but it is randomly selected. And she winds up with Halep, and she winds up beating her last night. She was very emotional afterwards. I'm sure there were some people really happy about that, and a lot more really unhappy about it. Elsewhere, Zeke Elliott's appeal hearing, Mike, is today in New York. Now, I'm not sure when we'll find out the result of it. It won't be today immediately, but he will have his side heard. What do you expect?
Well, I quite honestly, I expect the 6 games to be upheld. We will see where it goes. Again, it could be Roger Goodell or whoever he designates. He designated, again, Harold Henderson. Harold Henderson heard the appeal hearings for Greg Hardy and Adrian Peterson. If you remember, he knocked down Hardy from 10-4, and he upheld Adrian Peterson's indefinite suspension for child abuse in 2014. So one either way, he's heard more than a few appeals cases. I just don't know if the Cowboys and Zeke's team are bringing anything different to the table that wasn't uncovered in this long, probably too long investigation that the NFL had.
For what it's worth, you know that Jerry Jones was really upset about the suspension, but he did have positive things to say about Harold Henderson.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
So regardless of how this turns out, I'll be very surprised if Jerry goes after that.
Off the top.
All right, as far as the Harvey implications, the Texans and the Cowboys, the LSU and the BYU games have been moved due to Hurricane Harvey. So just quickly running through that, the Thursday night game, which was going to be played at NRG Stadium between the Texans and the Cowboys, has been moved to Dallas.
Right, that's an easy fix there. Just drive it over to Dallas.
And LSU and BYU were going to play there over the weekend, and now they'll play that game in New Orleans.
Yeah, these are solutions you have to find for the horrific situation going on right now, and I think these are these work well.
These were obvious ones and easy ones.
Very easy
certainly
ones.
not playing anything in Houston now or anytime particularly soon. It doesn't. Look, I'm no expert on cleaning things up after things like this, but it looked to me like you're going to be able to play there anytime, especially soon. So that's going to continue to be a story, I would think, going forward. And then finally, Mike, Matthew Stafford is now the richest football player that ever lived.
The most guaranteed money was $87 million. It is now $92 million. Matthew Stafford, a 5-year extension. He's got 1 year left on his deal. 5-year extension, $92 million guaranteed. $50 million signing bonus. And the average he'll be paid each year is $27 million, which is also the highest in the league. Absolutely incredible. Quick side note on that one. 2 highest paid players in baseball and football were high school teammates. Kershaw was the center to Matthew Stafford, the high school quarterback. Kershaw, on average, is the highest. We know Stanton has a $325 million.
Right.
Kershaw is going to make $33 million this year. That's the highest in baseball. And Stafford will make $27 million. You know who needs to be happy there? The high school. I would hope those guys are doing that high school well, because they're certainly doing well themselves.
Good job by you thinking of that. I had forgotten about that. Well, good job by Hembo. Those 2 guys, they grew up together.
How about that?
It's in Texas, right in the Dallas area is where they grew up. That's where they went to high school together. Yeah, and so now.
And again, Clayton Kershaw was the center on the football team as Stafford was the quarterback.
We once interviewed him about that, and the interview never made it to the air.
Never made it there, yeah. It's a great moment.
That was the interviews that we did at the All-Star game that somehow never made it back to Bristol. So they never saw the light of day. But I'm telling you, they were fascinating.
Yes, they were unbelievable.
All right, that's Off the Top, presented by Progressive Insurance, where they'll compare rates for you so you get the best deal even if it's not with Progressive, saving you time and money. Now that's Progressive. Call or click today. Mike, tell me about the 1906 Brooklyn Supernovas.
Again, the Super Boss, not the Supernovas.
It's not the Supernova?
Not the
I'm sorry, the
Supernovas.
Super what?
Super Boz. You'll understand why.
Boz?
Boz. Super, and then B-A-S. Super Boz. One word.
It's one word,
One
Super
word.
B-A-S.
Super Boz.
Superbuzz. Would that be the Superbuzz?
No, I just said Super Boz. I have no idea. It could be
Well,
Superbuzz.
it's got to be something in the plural.
Here's the thing.
Okay.
I'm going to explain where it came from, and you can tell me what you think. The back we did it in right off the top here. So again, it's about the Royals and their futility right now, where they were outscored 35-0 after leading the Rockies 2-0 on Thursday. 35-0 since they're the first team to allow at least 35 unanswered runs since the 1906 Brooklyn Superbas.
I mean, I'm assuming.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Listen, I don't know. And if I'm wrong about it, I'm not going to feel too bad about it because it's 1906.
Done a lot of research
Here we
into
go.
the phonetic pronunciation of the 1906 team.
The Dodgers settled on their name permanently in 1932, but they had many names before that. Those names included the Atlantics, the Grays, the Bridegrooms, the Grooms, the Robins, and the Superbas, or the whatever you want to say.
I'm guessing it's the Superbas.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why was it the Superbas? There was a popular vaudeville troupe in Brooklyn called Hanlon's Superbas. And when manager Ned Hanlon came from Baltimore to Brooklyn, sports writers jokingly began to call the baseball team the Superbas as well.
Okay. I like that. I mean,
that's the story behind it.
As opposed to Superbas.
I don't know. I don't know.
At first there had been just the regular
Well,
Baz.
once I read it was the act that it was, I thought, well, vaudeville. I mean, it's not like it was, the Rockettes or anything
But
like
you know
that.
what we love?
Yeah.
We love the names.
Yes, we do.
So the Brooklyn Superbas, during their 13-year history with that name, had players with the following names.
Yep. Welcome, Gaston.
Welcome, Gaston.
Gaston.
Can we look that up and see if that was his given name or if that's a nickname? Because that to me is just fast. How you doing? What's your name? Hi, I'm Welcome. So what do you do when he shows up at your house?
Welcome.
Or do you just say Welcome squared? I find that confusing. Go ahead.
Oh, go back.
Now you go back to that. You clicked off of it. He's reading the names off your screen.
Go back to the names. I don't care about Welcome anymore.
Go ahead.
Brickyard Kenny.
That's another
Brickyard
one.
Kennedy.
I'd like to find that. Is his name actually
There's no way it's
Brickyard?
Brickyard.
Well, I don't know.
Farmer Steelman. You think his name is Farmer?
It could.
Cozy Dolan. Tax Latimer. Pat Diesel. Ed Hugg. Bill Pounds. Patsy Donovan. Hub Knowles. I love that. And Weldon Henley.
Those
That's
are all real,
Henley.
That's Henley. Those are all real names.
Real names
of Brooklyn Superbas.
But how about did you know all the names of the team before it got to Dodgers?
Most certainly not. No.
The
I
Atlantics?
didn't know. I'd heard, for some reason, I want to say that I had heard that at one time there was a team called the Robins, but I don't think I would have known that it was Brooklyn.
The
I certainly
Atlantics?
didn't know the Bridegrooms.
The Atlantics, the Grays, the Bridegrooms, the Grooms. I guess you had to give equal coverage there.
At what point? Well, the bridegrooms and the grooms are theoretically the same thing, right? The bridegroom is the same as a groom. They just shortened it. Like your son Jake was the bridegroom and the groom. He wasn't the bride. But
I'm just reading what.
How long did they go with those names? I mean, there was a baseball team called the Brooklyn Bridegrooms. Go ahead.
Oh, that was it. And then the Superbas. I like Superbas better, but
I mean, actually, at this point,
I'm sure I'm wrong.
If you have a player named Tax Latimer or another one named Brickyard Kennedy,
the best name out of all those names, I love Brickyard. Brickyard Kennedy. Hub Knowles is a pretty good one as well.
Here we go. Brickyard Kennedy. His actual name was William. He was a dominant pitcher with Brooklyn.
I mean, come on. Brickyard?
Yeah. I'm just trying to find where in the story it explains how he came to be known as Brickyard. I don't know that. I do know he died from tuberculosis in Ohio at age 47.
Okay.
It doesn't make any reference in the story to how he became to be known Brickyard.
That would be in there. How did it come to be Brickyard? How did it become to Farmer? Maybe it was a farmer. I mean, that might be an easy one for Farmer Steelman. Tax. Do we think Tax? Check out Tax Latimer.
Tacks Latimer.
Tax Latimer.
Yeah.
Is that short for something?
Was he fond of using thumbtacks?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what else it would be.
Tax Latimer.
Anyway, these guys will look that up.
Yeah.
That goes back to the fact that the Royals now haven't scored a run in a long time.
Clifford Wesley Tax Latimer.
1924, he was involved in a dispute with another police officer and shot him 4 times in the back. Was found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment.
That'll hurt your baseball career.
Was eventually pardoned in 1930 for his heroism during a prison riot.
So he was a hero during a prison riot and got got pardoned for second-degree murder, of which he got a life sentence.
But
we still don't know why it's called tack.
But and he was on the Brooklyn Superbas in 1902. All right, let's move on from this. One way or another, we've got a lot to get to this morning, and it'll start with Matthew Stafford. And here's where the football world just doesn't get it. Where people are looking at this thing and saying, how could Matthew Stafford be worth all that much money? Are you out of your mind? The only people who are criticizing the contract that was given to Matthew Stafford, or would have criticized the contract that was given to Derek Carr, or would have criticized the contract once upon a time that was given, I remember, to Tony Romo and the others, are the people who have never rooted for a team that doesn't have a quarterback, okay? Matthew Stafford is worth whatever it is you pay him. If you just took him, you put him on a scale, said this is what he weighs, and then handed him that much in gold, he'd be worth that, okay? Because Matthew Stafford is a quarterback who will win games for you and with whom you can win games. And half the teams in the league don't have anything even remotely approaching that. So whatever it is you have to pay Matthew Stafford, you pay him, you say thank you for being our quarterback, and you get on with your day. He's a terrific player, and he is absolutely worth the money.
A volume guy, and most passing yards per game in his first 8 seasons in NFL history, averaged 278 yards a game. One of 4 quarterbacks in NFL history to throw for at least 4,000 yards in 6 straight seasons. Drew Brees is on 11, by the way. It's an active streak. And no one has produced more game-winning drives in the fourth quarter overtime since 2011. That includes 8 last season, the most such drives by a quarterback in a season since 1970. He has 26 fourth quarter or overtime drives. Again, a volume guy. In 2012, he had 727 passing attempts.
Yeah.
He throws the ball a ton. Listen, that's just the way it is. You know what it is? It's all about timing, because here is your list since 2012, March of 2012, of your highest paid quarterbacks. In March of 2012, it was Peyton Manning. He held that for 121 days before Drew Brees took over. And then Joe Flacco became the highest paid. And then Aaron Rodgers became the highest paid. Then Joe Flacco again. Then Andrew Luck. Then Derek Carr. Now Matthew Stafford. Insert next name there for the next
whoever the next guy in line is exactly at that position.
Right.
Look, there is nothing more valuable right now in sports. Nothing. I don't care if you are if you're Clayton Kershaw. I don't care if you're whoever the best goalie is in the National Hockey League. I don't care if you are, maybe the NBA superstar, the top-of-the-line NBA superstar, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard. Those guys and NFL quarterbacks are the most important people in sports, because they're the ones who do 2 things. They win games, and they attract attention. They bring people. They put people in the seats. They make people interested in what you're doing. There are practically no football players who do that who aren't quarterbacks. You can count them on one hand. You can count on one hand the number of NFL players who aren't quarterbacks that people say, I can't wait to watch him play. Doesn't mean there aren't great players all over the field. But no one is buying a ticket to go watch Aaron Donald play. He might be the best interior defensive lineman the league has seen since, I don't even know who.
And you love watching him play, but you know the quarterback's leading the way.
No one's buying a ticket to go watch Aaron Donald. Maybe Odell Beckham, maybe Rob Gronkowski, maybe Zeke Elliott, a handful of guys, and then the quarterbacks, and that's it. So Stafford, whoever the next guy in line is, and I don't even know who it'll be, but whoever the next guy in line is
Kirk Cousins getting more than that?
Well, yes, I think he is. Next year, Kirk Cousins, but again, he's in a unique circumstance because Kirk Cousins is going to become an unrestricted free agent, which no other quarterback of significance. Well, let me ask you this. In a vacuum, forget who else is on your team and everything else. If I told you could either have Matt Stafford or Kirk Cousins, which one would you take?
I think I would still take Stafford. Again, he's just 29. Seems like Stafford's. I remember we had him on set. I think it was in Super Bowls in Tampa Bay. And we had him on set there his senior year at Georgia as he was getting ready for the draft.
I remember.
And it seems like he's been in the league for 50 years. He's been in the league for, I think, 8.
He was drafted. 20, he was drafted first that year. Do you know who else? What other quarterback went high in the first round that year? Mark Sanchez.
Oh, yeah.
That was the year the Jets took Sanchez. They traded up to get him number 5.
Stafford, in this time when these quarterbacks are playing until they're a lot older, Stafford is only 29 years old.
Yeah.
So, there are a lot of people that I'm in Detroit that want to give up on him, and we bring this up all the time. Then what are you going to do? You're starting over? And there may be people that say, yeah, it's time for them to start over. I have no idea.
Oh, that's insane. People should be those people's opinion should be discounted immediately.
Well, I mean, that's a little harsh, but I'm with you as far as why a guy like that gets paid, and the next quarterback will get paid. I don't know if Kirk Cousins will make more than that or not, but he's going to be right in that area there. Aaron Rodgers will be up again. Will he make, what kind of deal? Now
he'll make whatever he wants to make,
yeah.
right? He'll make whatever deal he wants to make because he won't become a free agent. And Ryan won't. Matt Ryan is another one who'll get a contract
last
extension.
Free agent quarterback?
And I'm saying it again?
Last free agent quarterback?
The last true free agent?
Yeah.
I mean, of real consequence? There are
yeah.
free agents all the time. You're talking about a major guy whom was it Peyton?
Peyton.
Yeah, okay. And look what he got, and he was 30, whatever he was at the time, with a neck that didn't turn both directions. So you got a guy like, if Kirk Cousins is going to become a free agent, the one thing he'll have that Stafford didn't have and all this is a bidding war. He'll have more than one team bidding for him. So Stafford, he didn't have that. He didn't get to a free agent. They worked out a deal that both sides would be happy with, and everyone knew it was going to be huge money. In the case of Cousins, it literally can become what we see in baseball now, which is, let's just say for the sake of argument, Shanahan and Lynch really want him in San Francisco, and Washington wants to keep him. And now I'm just making this up. The Jets want to jump in with a bunch of money because they're going to need a quarterback, and a lot of other teams out there. That's where it goes up, even if he's not the best quarterback.
He'll have just come off making $44 million the last 2 years. And, you wonder what, and you can there are those out there, again, that scratch their head at this and say, my God, how can a guy, you want this quarterback to lead you to the playoffs and to a Super Bowl, so you need to beat the better teams. Matthew Stafford is 5-43. 5-43 in his career against teams that finished the season with a winning record. Again, in that, he's 1-23 in those games on the road.
Yeah, look, he's on bad teams.
Yeah.
He's been the quarterback of bad teams on a terrible franchise.
The ball a ton.
The Lions have won one playoff game since the 50s, right? Do I have that right? Haven't they won a total of one playoff game since the 1950s? So this is not just about Stafford.
You have two of the greatest players that played in their team in their history basically retire because
they couldn't take it anymore.
Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, so Stafford, listen, is Stafford perfect? Certainly not. Is he the best quarterback in the NFL? No, he's not.
No.
Is he worth the money they paid him? Absolutely. And if not, send him to my team. He can be my team's quarterback anytime. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Jam-packed will be today on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Coming up next, there is no question, which team has had the worst preseason.
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling that you're safe to enjoy the things that matter most. ADT lets you take that feeling with you, whether you're at home, your business, or online. We help keep you safe with security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling for less than $1 a day. ADT, home, safe home.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump. Wait.
Should we be like in tandem?
Tandem? That's a great idea.
Are you a certified instructor?
No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.
I got some tweets here. 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Michael tweets, no problem with Stafford contract. He has helped elevate the Lions from the worst team in the league to a contender who are fun to watch. That's the way I would look at it. That's the way I'd look at it. Now, there's a lot of tweets in here that are disagreeing, Mike. So we got John tweets at me, lifelong Lions fans. I've seen terrible quarterbacks. This guy's 5-46 against winning teams, now eating up cap space for an already bad team.
While I understand where you're coming from and these guys get their money, I understand the other side of it that says, well, wait a minute. If we're going to pay a quarterback that kind of money, we want that quarterback to hopefully lead us to the playoffs, and the quarterback's the most important position on the field. Granted, he has not had a great team around him a lot of times, but he's got a horrible record against winning teams that you have to beat to get where you want to go. So I'm sure there are a lot of Lions fans that'll say, you know what, we're willing to start over. We're willing to go back to a younger quarterback, get a younger quarterback, and start again. We've had this one for 8 years. We haven't done a whole lot. Now we've gave him a ton of money that eats up a ton of cap space. So I can see the other side of that, because it's not like this isn't Derek Carr where you say, oh, my God, what are you paying that guy the money for? You know, he's just starting. They're just building that team. There are Lions fans who have been there, done that with this team, and this team's not winning. And so I'm sure, and I can understand that, them saying, you know what? Let's start this over again. We know you have to have a good quarterback to win. Everybody says we have a good quarterback, we're not winning. So let's start this thing again, get a different quarterback in there. You're not paying this kind of money. See what we can build from there. I understand that thought process.
I know, but I completely disagree with it. They were in the playoffs a couple of years ago. They got a terrible call. Otherwise, they probably would have beaten Dallas.
They did.
In that game. They're a bad organization. So you want to start over again with what? Start over again. He's still young enough to be starting over again around him. So, to me, look, you can have your opinion, but if you're down on Matthew Stafford based upon what most quarterback play is in the National Football League, you're out of your mind.
His rating, the quarterback rating of the last 5 years, he was 13th, 9th, 21st, 19th, 22nd.
Yeah, with no running game.
Yeah.
I mean, literally no running game.
I get it. He doesn't have a lot around him.
What's the last 100-yard rusher they had?
Yeah, it's been like I think it was.
How long has it been since they've had a running back run for 100 yards in a game?
Been a long time.
I mean, it's been an extraordinary amount of time.
I'm just saying I can understand Detroit Lions frustrations, fans' frustrations, in saying we've had this guy for a long time, we still haven't won. Let's, and now we're eating up a lot of cap space with this. Some were ready to move on. I get it. I understand. If you choose to keep him, you're going to pay him like that. That's just the way this thing goes. Unless he wants, you want to be a guy that says, I'll take less. And it's a shame we're there where you're in a situation where you can try to maximize what you can make, and now sometimes it's frowned upon because you've had other quarterbacks and really other great players in other sports take less. So some people look at it and say, well, that's exactly what you should do to help the team out. When, again, one of the ideas is when you play well or you're in a position to maximize your money, you should be able to do it.
The last time the Detroit Lions had a running back run for 100 yards in a game was Week 13 of 2013, and it was Reggie Bush. So here's what I would say to all frustrated Lion fans. I get it. Your franchise has been atrocious.
Yes, it has.
A joke. And the best thing you have going for you is your quarterback. That's the best thing the Lions have going for them, and it has been since the minute he got there. So I would say count your lucky stars you have him and hope that the organization figures out pieces to put around him, because thus far they haven't. That's my opinion. Mike and Mike, let's do In the Zone. It's brought to you by AutoZone. Drive the new Duralast GT brake pads, proven tough from the tracks to the streets and sold only at AutoZone. Get in the zone with AutoZone. Mike, who has been in the zone?
Why don't we go with Corey Kluber from my Cleveland Indians? How about that? Allowed 3 hits in 8 innings. The Indians beat the Yankees 6-2. Since he came back from the DL June 1st, Kluber leads the majors in innings pitched, in ERA, and in strikeouts. Everybody kind of handing Chris Sale the Cy Young.
Yeah.
Keep it on, that race may not be over just yet.
Kluber's a great pitcher.
Yes, he is.
And he certainly has been in the zone of late, and that is brought to you by AutoZone. All right, I can tell you which NFL team has had the worst preseason by far. Don't look at wins and losses.
Ooh.
The only thing that really matters when the preseason is taking place is that at the end of every single play, you just hope everyone stands up and walks back to the huddle without a limp. And for the Baltimore Ravens, that has not been the case. The Ravens yesterday put Albert McClellan on the injured reserve list. He is the 10th player that they have lost for the season.
Yeah, for the season.
Since June 1st. He's got an ACL. He's out for the year. They've lost 10 players for the season since June 1st. That is a mind-boggling average of one player every 9 days. Every 9 days since June 1st. And mind you, training camps didn't start till the end of June.
Right.
Preseason games didn't start till the end of July.
No, training camps didn't start till the second or third week in July. No training camp starts in June.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I got my dates wrong.
June
of July.
Right.
Of July. So how are these guys getting hurt in June? They just were getting hurt other different ways.
All-season program.
Off-season,
you have the OTAs, you have mini camps all the way up till about the second or third week.
Fair enough. My bad. So I misstated my calendar. It's even worse than I thought. So these guys were in the off-season program in June. They start showing up for preseason or for training camp in mid-July to late July. They start playing preseason games basically the beginning of August. And they've lost one player for the year for every 9 days since then. That's unimaginable. It's ridiculous.
Every year there seems to be a team that turns into a mash unit. And this year it's the Ravens. We've seen it happen before with injuries, or you'll see it like during the season. Here it started happening we started with the date June 1st. But every year, and we saw this last week 3 of preseason a number of injuries, and we say, oh, my God, more injuries. And if you look back, there was probably the same amount of injuries last year. So what's the answer? I mean, these injuries happen every year, and one team seems to get bit more than others. So what do you do? I mean, so when we start, are we going to start saying something about preseason? Let's remember, like Tavon Young tore his ACL June 1st. They don't have pads on June 1st.
Right.
Dennis Pitta hurt his hip again June 2nd. They don't have pads on June 2nd. One guy retired in this. It was John Urschel. But so some of these guys, they're getting hurt. This latest one, McClellan just mentioned, what did it say? It was a torn
ACL.
Torn ACL. But some of these were non-contact drills. Again, even if
this was.
Yeah,
McClellan injured his knee during a non-contract drill at the end of practice.
End of practice. So, but I'm not sure where we're going with this about. I do think we're going to end up shortening 4 preseason games. I absolutely think that. But remember, players got what they wanted. This is part of what they wanted. Their off-season program doesn't start till the 3rd week of April. Then training camp, they can only do 1 padded practice a day. They can't do 2 a days. And the only 14 padded practices during the regular season. So this is just bad luck, right? Is that what we're saying? I mean,
yeah.
There's no way we can sit there and say, well, my God, they're working too hard, and getting these injuries. This is just a team, one team, sometimes a couple, get bit every year with the injury bug.
Right. It is a sport where injuries are the single biggest deciding factor in success, which is what makes prolonged success so remarkable. And I'm not trying to make any larger point about the Ravens beyond the fact that this has just been a disastrous few months for their franchise.
It has.
And that doesn't mean they can't overcome it. And as I look through the story, some of these guys, like as you mentioned, Urschel retired, another one was suspended for the year,
right.
For the drug policy. So it wasn't all season-ending injuries, but one way or another, from June 1st until now, they've lost 10 players for the year that they were anticipating having. That's one for every 9 days.
That's amazing.
So they've just been decimated completely. All right, on the way, one baseball team is making a huge mistake, and I'm not 100% sure Major League Baseball doesn't need to step in and do something about it.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
The worst quarterback competition in the National Football League was settled yesterday, and I want to bring it up if only to make a larger point, and that is the Jets named Josh McCown their starting quarterback, despite the fact that he did not play in either their second or third preseason games. And they were trying to see what they had in Christian Hackenberg, and then he was just unimaginably bad.
He's not good.
And they put Bryce Petty out there, and he played pretty well, and then he got hurt. It looked like seriously hurt. Now, the good news is it doesn't appear as he's that hurt. Mm-hmm. But the point is, then yesterday they announced we're going to play McCown because he gives us the best chance to win, and it's probably the right thing to do. I'm not even talking about that.
Yeah, I get it. I get why they didn't play him and let those other guys play and have that competition, see what you got.
Well, the point is not playing him, even though you knew in your own mind he is most likely going to start week 1, I think actually illustrates a larger point, and that is the total meaninglessness now of the preseason games. With the way these teams work in training camp and the way they work around the preseason games, the games themselves have become even less meaningful. There was a time when you would never have said, well, we're not going to play these guys at all. There was a time when in the third preseason game, star players would play well into the third quarter.
Yeah.
You didn't see that this year.
Oh, you saw it in Tennessee. And Mariota was out there into the third quarter.
But there were some games. But in a lot of other places, you didn't see it at all. Eli Manning was running to the sideline early in the second quarter of that game, and a lot of others. So I think you are seeing a decreased significance or a decreased emphasis on these preseason
I think
games.
it's because it's an increased emphasis on the practices with other teams. I think that is the way that teams are going to want to go. I think they feel they're getting better work out of that, and then they're going to keep their starters out of harm's way in the preseason games.
Yeah, this was a tweet that I saw from Mark Sessler, who works for the NFL Network, who wrote, "No more myth-making about week 3 of the preseason looming as a critical night. Not in 2017. Half these teams yanking starters a quarter in." And it just made me think about what Chris Collinsworth said when he was on our show last week.
I remember going from, in my rookie year, from that last preseason game to the first regular season game, And all I can think was, it was like somebody hit fast forward on a recorder kind of thing. And these people are out here trying to kill each other. Preseason is a joke. I mean, it just is. God bless them. It's great for the people trying to make their teams.
Yep.
But if you think the veteran players out there are playing the same speed on opening day that they're playing in the preseason, it's just not the case.
Preseason is for the back end of the roster. You go into training camp, basically the coaches know 2/3 of the roster. And then you figure out the rest of it through preseason. And you also try and knock the rust off, get some timing down and that thing. And then depends on if you have a quarter. The main thing is, do you have a quarterback competition? Do you need to see 2 quarterbacks? Do you need to see 3 quarterbacks? You know, those are the ones where it's more interesting than the others, because how do you divvy up reps? Do you get one behind the first O-line, another behind the first O-line? Other than that, it's get your plays in, get up after every play, get the guys into the game that are trying to make the back end of the roster.
Yeah, so to that point, I saw an enormous amount of criticism of the Jets for not playing McCown, and then all of a sudden he's their starter. And listen, no one is more inclined to want to call out what's going on with them right now than I am. But candidly, I can't complain about that.
No,
because
I wouldn't.
Playing these preseason games, it's so obvious around the league that it's become so meaningless that I can't sit here and say, well, how could you have not played him?
But
in
it wasn't
games?
meaningless to the Jets in the fact that they needed to get Hackenberg out there and get him some reps and get him to play and see what he could do. And unfortunately, you found out about him in things that you didn't like. And but you needed to see some of that.
He has no idea. Meaning, has no idea where the pressure is coming from.
He has trouble. He locks on. He has trouble reading, hanging onto the ball, just locking onto one. I mean, that pick six that Collins had. Oh my Lord! I mean, you just start diagramming that play on what he did wrong that play. Yeah, he struggles, and I mean mightily, to where you just can't trust him on the field.
Yeah. So that isn't even. I was really just trying to make the larger point here, which is that I can't criticize them for not playing the guy who's going to be their starter, because these games are so meaningless. And I was about to say, you know what? Why don't they just get rid of them? That was the thought that I had. And then I came across this tweet. And let's make this Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. It came from Mike Reese, who covers the Patriots for us at ESPN. But he was quote tweeting WBZ in Boston, which is the CBS affiliate in Boston. And this was their tweet. Patriots-Lions on WBZ had 4 times more viewers than Red Sox-Orioles that same night. So those 2 games were on TV at the same time in the Boston market. And 4 times as many people watched this horrendous, ridiculous, dreck preseason football game than watched a regular season baseball of a first-place team with the hated Yankees breathing down their necks in the division. So what does that tell us? It tells us people are still watching these games to at least some degree.
Especially if it's the third game, there's still that thought out there that the starters, they do play more than they normally do. You're exactly right in saying they don't play as long as they used to, but they still play. This is the game they play the most, so that normally is going to be the biggest rated game. Next week's games, you want to talk about ridiculous. You'll get starters that won't even dress for that game.
Yeah, no. The 4th preseason games are so that they're still deciding, though. That's the very back end of the roster, right? That's like the guys who are going to be running down on kickoff,
and basically a lot of it's been decided. Now what you do is, for those guys that aren't going to make the team, this is a game to get a lot of tape. So if you're going to get cut, you have tape that other teams get to see in case because that's what you'll see. Players get picked up, after the cuts. Remember, the cuts got moved. There used to be cuts after this 3rd preseason game. Now they get a whole nother week.
Right.
So the back-end players get more practice, and they'll get another game in, and they'll let them play a lot, and let them get on tape to maybe help them get somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, Bill Belichick said that he has watched every game that has been played in the preseason this entire preseason.
Yeah.
So he's seen tape or, he's seen these games of all these players, because they'll be, to your point, signing guys next week that get cut other places. Right. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. All right, we'll take a brief pause here. And as we continue in just a moment, there is one baseball team that I really believe is making a huge mistake. And if it isn't too late, I think someone needs to step in and make a change here. We'll get to that. We got Schefter on the way and Stu Gotts and a whole lot more. Stay with us. Busy morning with Mike and Mike.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump.
Wait. Should we be in tandem?
Tandem? That's a great great idea!
Are you a certified instructor?
No, but I love parachutes and I love people! Here we go!
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.
Home isn't just a place. It's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance. So you can feel at home, wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT. Home. Safe home.
Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Schefter in this hour on the Shell Pinzall Performance Line. Never a bad time for a little Schefter. We got Stugotz later this morning and Paul Feinbaum and Oscar De La Hoya. Golden Boy Promotions. They've got the big fight coming up.
Yes, they do.
We were looking to sort of find the next day's angle on the fight over the weekend, and I think one of the big questions is, you know that De La Hoya and company were very upset that they put this fight this past weekend.
Getting their digs in and their shots in on it, and the fraud that it was, that they thought it was.
And especially that it went right in front of Triple G and Alvarez. But now that it was the success that it was, in I think almost every way, certainly financially, and I think artistically, if you will, it wasn't bad. I think, if anything, it'll help the fight coming up.
I think so as well.
I don't think it'll hurt it.
Let's see if Oscar feels that way as well.
Well, look, the boxing purist may have been put off a tad by what they saw.
Right.
But, again, I don't think they made a mockery of the sport. I really don't.
I don't either.
And going into it, they may have been worried it was going to be that.
And this isn't about boxing fans. Boxing fans are going to want to see the fight. This is about the casual fan and what they can pull in.
Right. So, again, if they're still upset about what happened over the weekend, I'd like to hear what part of it they're upset about. Right. Some other Twitter reaction just to some of the discussion we've had early this morning. Joshua tweets, the Jets would settle for a life-sized cardboard cutout of Chad Pennington at this point. You know, the oft-maligned Chad Pennington, you realize that every year he was healthy as a starting quarterback in the NFL, his team made the playoffs. Happened with the Jets, and it happened with Miami. He just was, unfortunately, a guy who got hurt a lot. Right. But when he was healthy, he was good. I mean, he's the only thing that the Jets have had going on all through these years. Bobby tweets, why doesn't the NFL eliminate preseason and charge admission and televise joint team practices? You know why they don't do that. Because they can't charge admission, because they charge full ticket prices for 2 preseason games, and if you're a season ticket holder, you have to buy them.
That's exactly right.
That's why they don't change.
Money in their pocket, but I guarantee you coaches like the scrimmages better than the preseason games.
Yeah, and look, and I'll point it out again. I mean, in fairness, Mike Reese retweeted WBZ in Boston that the Patriot game was on up against the Red Sox game. And I get it, there are 162 regular season baseball games, but every single one of them is more important than any of the 4 preseason NFL games. And yet the preseason and the Patriot game drew 4 times the audience the Red Sox did. And the Red Sox are in a legitimate playoff race at this point with the hated Yankees. So, I mean, that people are watching.
Yeah, they are.
I sat down and watched the game Saturday night, in spite of myself. The Jets and the Giants.
I
watched
think
it.
Everybody sits down for week 3 of the preseason because that's when the starters play the most. So that's when you feel you're going to get a decent look at what your team may look like when the season starts.
And then Bob tweets at us, it doesn't matter if the first game, the third game, or the 10th game, nobody cares about baseball until the playoffs. I really hate it. Look, Bob's a good tweeter. He tweets at us all the time. Right. I don't want to knock you, Bob, but I don't like it when people say, quote unquote, nobody cares. You know what that means? That means you don't care.
You don't care. A lot of people care.
Lots of other people do care, Bob. So don't assume because you don't care about something
nobody cares,
that nobody cares about something. Okay, Mike and Mike, so Schefter coming up, and at Stafford, the obviously a lot of reaction to the Stafford contract, and, you know, our program is brought to you in part by DraftKings. Play free 1-week fantasy football at DraftKings. Just use the code Mike only at DraftKings.com. Is Stafford an illustration, Mike? I mean, again, if you're just waking up, maybe you hadn't heard, Stafford's going to get a contract that'll make him the richest player in football. And just another in a succession of quarterbacks until time comes.
Until the next really good quarterback is available and to make that money.
And so there are some people taking their shots at Stafford. And look, it is what it is. He isn't perfect.
No.
He isn't. There's a level of guys that are at the very, very top of that sport, right? There's a tier that he's not on. But I think he's on the next tier. So if the top tier has, I'm just making this up now, and I'm sure I'll leave somebody out, but if it has Brady on it, and it has Rodgers on it, and it has Breeze on it, and it has Ben on it, who am I forgetting? I mean, and some other people like that. Then there's another tier that's a much bigger one, and Stafford's on that. He's a guy you can definitely win with. And I guess the question I would ask, with related to DraftKings is, do you think some people overvalue him because he's such a fantasy stud?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Like
absolutely.
His fantasy numbers are so huge because that team doesn't ever run the ball.
They're going to throw it, and he's going to get you points. Absolutely right.
So, Russell Wilson won't put up numbers like Matt Stafford. Now, who would you rather have, Matt Stafford or Russell Wilson?
I'd rather have Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I probably would too.
As an overall quarterback, I think I would rather have Russell Wilson. That's why I get it from but I guess when I keep talking about the other side of this, I'm talking more from Detroit Lion fans. I can understand their frustration in saying, let's just blow the whole thing up and not screw our cap up with a quarterback who hasn't helped us win any more than anybody else. To which I would answer, you got to have a quarterback. He's only 29 years old. I'm just giving the other side of it. I have no problem with the signing at all. I get it. Now try and build a team around. But as we see, once a quarterback gets paid, it gets tougher to even build around. We saw that with Flacco. See it with Russell Wilson. Once you get paid, now Seattle's still up near the top, and they've done a good job, especially on the defensive side of the ball, keeping some of their pieces together. That's when, as a GM and the cap person of a team, you really earn your stripes. When you have to pay that quarterback, when you have to give out, maybe sometimes not even the quarterback, $100 million contract. Houston Texans, J.J. Watt. They're not paying a quarterback. Now, they paid Osweiler when he came in, but, God, they got Cleveland to take that contract.
My goodness.
I mean, it's still...
That's going to wind up being one of the great moves.
Stunning
great
to me.
Unheralded moves of all time was getting that contract
to get
off their books.
Out of that contract. Yep. That's exactly right. So whenever you have to deal with that monster contract, how you deal with everything else and how you build on that team. That's why you rarely see a team like the Patriots deal with a monster contract. And they would have to if Brady demanded one. Then it would get interesting. If he, said, I'm the best quarterback, I should be paid like the best quarterback. He doesn't do that. So he, quote unquote, helps his team, to which a lot of other people, I'm sure there are Lion fans, are saying, come on, Matt, you've gotten paid a ton of money already. Why don't you take a better deal that would help build the team around you? You're the linchpin to this team. Let's get a better team around you and let's win. And that's always a tough one. It shouldn't be, you got all the other. I guess it's your choice whether you want to do that or not, but I just don't like when it's held against somebody if they don't take less to help the team. You should be able to maximize your dollar. If you choose to take less, that's your choice, and that's fine, and maybe that's something you want to do. But that's really not how the system was supposed to be set up, to where, hey, you should make a ton of money, but you know what? Why don't you take way less so you can help this team?
Look, I mean, the Detroit Lions, again, have won one playoff game since the 50s. Stafford has had them in the playoffs. Is it the last 2 seasons in a row, or is it 2 out of the last 3? 2 out of 3. They were in the playoffs last year. I mean, people talk about them like they were awful last year. They made the playoffs last year. All right, 2 years ago was the year they started like 0-6 and then worked their way all the way back to like 9-7 or something. They lost some ridiculous games. They had a bad call in the end zone. And then the year before that, they had a really, really good year and should have beaten Dallas in a playoff game and got a really bad call, I thought, that hurt them there.
Right. Yep.
So, I mean, they're a terrible franchise. Terrible. They've been awful for 60 years. Stafford's the best thing they have going for them. The best. I mean, in recent memory, the best things they've had going for them were Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, and this guy.
Yeah, that's right.
So, in my opinion, you keep that guy, you pay him, and then you root for the best. All right, Mike and Mike, let's move on here. We got a situation in baseball. So, we opened our show this morning talking about, however, at a time where it feels almost unprecedentedly divided, our society does. Our nation every single day and every single night on cable news, everyone's yelling at each other, and it's just awful. That when we have these disasters, as we have right now in Houston, seeing everyone selflessly pitching in.
Yeah, without even thinking about it, just going to help.
Is so heartwarming.
Yeah.
And it is so inspiring. And so now we have this thing going on in baseball where the Astros and the Rangers were supposed to be playing in Houston this week. And obviously they can't. And I don't know when they're going to be able to play baseball or any sport in Houston again. And that obviously is, in the big picture, not all that important. But so the Astros are supposed to play the Rangers at home this week, and then they're supposed to play them again in Texas next month.
Right.
And so the Astros called up the Rangers and said, can we just flip-flop those series?
Let's just flip it.
Can we just play that series, later and play this series now?
We'll go to Texas now, and then you'll come to our place next month.
And the Rangers said no. So that series is going to be played in Tampa instead. And John Daniels, the general manager, and let's give all his reasoning. Let's be fair. Here's what he said. He said the Rangers offered to put on the games this week in Texas. They would have been willing to play them this week in Texas, but they still wanted next month's games in Arlington as well.
So 6 games all there.
Now he said they would have played the games with the rules that the Astros were the home team, so the Astros would have batted last and all of that,
and they would have got all the revenue.
They would have given them the home team's revenue from these games, so they weren't over the money.
Right.
But declined to swap home and home series because they didn't want a 4-city road trip in the last 16 days of the season. In discussing baseball reasons for the Rangers' perspective, Daniel said he was almost cringing, but fans and schedule all played a part, because he also said it wouldn't be fair
to the fans.
To the Rangers fans, the season ticket holders who had tickets for those games in Arlington in September and were counting on using them, and instead those games would be moved to Houston. So he said he was almost cringing as he made this announcement and as they made this decision.
It was for the fans, and then that the Rangers would not be home for the final 4 series of the season.
So I would ask you, Mike, because I think I want to be open-minded about this, because, look, I mean, baseball goes on, life goes on. These teams on some level have to worry about themselves. But again, as we watch people jumping out of cars to help other people who are stranded, as we watch, again, that picture I keep seeing in my mind of this woman carrying a dog on her shoulders through waist-high water, as you see all of this heroism that is going on before our eyes, there's a part of me that wants to say, a baseball team playing 4 series at the end of its season on the road in the big picture seems like an awfully small sacrifice when you consider the devastation that is going on. And when you look at J.J. Watt raising $1 million in 36 hours, and you look at all of the different things that are being done, and the Astros organization did give, I think, $4 million and all sorts of things. And there's a part of me that I want to hear your take on this before I sort of go off on this, in case someone can convince me that I'm missing something.
John Daniels, the Texas GM, made a business decision where a business decision didn't need to be made. Sometimes you just have to forget even bite your lip. Just say, let's just flop them. Let's just flip-flop them. Listen, we got to see in a month where we are in Houston as far as being able to have a game there and such. But I think that would have been my initial overriding thought. Yes, let's flip them so we can still get games. How great would it be to have a game? If people want to come to it in a month in Houston for what they're going through now, we could have a game there, so let's just flip-flop the series. I think that would have been the easy thing to do. He thought further about it. He thought about, listen, we always ask the fans to be thought about. And Daniel said he was thinking about the fans, the Rangers fans that had tickets for September, those games, which would now be in Houston. He was thinking of those fans, and obviously his team being away from home the last 4 series. Sometimes you need to put the business decision aside and just make the decision that's right. And in this case, I think it would have been the best decision to just say, hey, guys, we'll just flip-flop the series. You come to Texas now. We'll go to Houston in September. It's extraordinary circumstances right now, so we're not going to do anything that does anything to monkey wrench is a wrong word. Let's just make it simple. Let's just flip-flop it. You get games in Houston. I think that would be great in a month to be able to play some games in Houston, and let's just do that. So, I think while Daniels is going to say, he's thinking of his team and his fans, which is what you want your guy to do, I think there was a little bit of overthinking there to just take the easy solution and just flip-flop the series.
In case you're wondering about playoff ramifications, the Rangers, while they are 2 games under 500, are actually only 3 games out of the second wild card. There are, however, 5 teams ahead of them in that. The point is they are still in a playoff race.
Right.
And they can be looking ahead to that and saying we may be chasing a playoff position at the very end of our season. I understand that. It just feels to me like the optics of this, if you will, I hate that word. I'm going to try very hard to stop saying that, because the optics are not what should be taken into account. You should be doing what's right. You shouldn't be doing things based upon how things look. But it certainly does look awful. It certainly does look awful to juxtapose the pictures that we're seeing on our television of the selfless acts of heroism with a general manager saying, it's probably not in the best interest of our team to have 4 consecutive series on the road at the end of the season. Again, our ticket holders, I do appreciate them watching out for their ticket holders, but I got to believe most of those ticket holders would get it. Like, these are extraordinary circumstances. This is like a once in a century kind of disaster that has befallen the Houston area. Is where the baseball game is being played really making that big of a difference? No, I understand that it isn't. But there's just something about saying, I have to put some things ahead of this right now that just does not pass the smell test.
Yeah.
So I'd be very curious to hear what people think. At us on Twitter, at ESPN Greeny, at ESPN Golick, at Mike and Mike. At us with your thoughts. Because there was a part of me that just wanted to go off on this today. And there's a part of me that is thinking, am I missing something here?
Right.
Like, I was going to say, I think Major League Baseball needs to step in and just say, no. What are you talking about? Are you out of your mind? Play these games in Houston next month.
Yeah.
Flip-flop this, for crying out loud. I'm going to hold off on that until I see if there is something that I'm missing in this. So at us on Twitter with your thoughts on this decision. I just want to be open-minded on this in case there's some part of this that I'm missing.
I would like to hear it as well, because it would just seem the easy thing to do. Yeah, we want you to have some games in Houston. The games, that's how it was set up to begin with, so let's just flip them and go there. And baseball, I don't think, could force it. Again, a commissioner works for owners, so I think you could strongly suggest it, say, hey, this, we really should be thinking about doing it this way. And they're not going to. So Houston is not going to get these 3 games in Houston. They're going to go to Tropicana in St. Petersburg, and then they're going to go to Texas. So the 3 games will not be in Houston at all, where I think a month from now, whether people want to go to them or not, because I don't know where everybody's going to be in a month. I mean, the build-out from this is certainly not going to be done in a month.
Right.
We know they are in for a long haul in Houston. But if you can get some games there and get some people that want to go to the games and have, do whatever you want to do there, make it a money raiser, something, more they can do, and it actually be in Houston, I think it would be nice to have those games in Houston. That would have been my initial thought. But I'm with you. Let's hear both sides of this thing, before, we rant and rave.
Yeah, and we will see if there is any additional perspective out there from Major League Baseball, if anyone there is listening, or from the Rangers organization that you want to share with us or our audience. I'd like to hear it because, again, on its face, this thing to me does not pass the smell test at all. But I'm willing to have my mind changed by that. All right, Mike and Mike, we are, again, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guest, like Schefter, coming up shortly on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. But right now, let's fill in the blank. Mike, the staff has put together a couple of sentences for us. They've left out a word here or there, and we can fill them in together. Mike and Mike, let's do it. Matthew Stafford, having led the Lions to 0 playoff wins, being the highest paid player in the NFL, is
understandable. I mean, that's where we are in this league right now. It's about timing. It sometimes isn't about, if you're in the top 10, top 15 of quarterbacks, and you're a quarterback that team has and that team needs, and there's no other options out there, you're going to pay the guy. So this is how it works in the NFL, and I completely understand.
Yeah, and I would say it's about timing, because he was going to get this contract at this time, and whoever comes up next is going to get the next one.
Right.
And they're just going to go sequentially. You pay the quarterback. If you have Matthew Stafford, you pay him, you keep him, you thank your lucky stars you found him, and then you try and win with him. That's what you do, because otherwise you're a team that is scrambling like the Jets, who are our next fill-in-the-blank question. Mm-hmm. The Jets named Josh McCown as their starting quarterback. The number of games he will start this year is blank.
Wow. I don't see him starting them all. I see them getting another whether it's Bryce Petty. Now, we know the injury wasn't as serious as people thought.
I think Petty can play this week in the preseason. Yeah, I think.
Quite honestly, the Hackenberg experiment may be done. So I could see them possibly going to Petty. I'll say 10 games. I was going to say 8, so I'm in that 8 to 10 area. Before, if they're not playing well, I mean, I think you got to put one of the other guys on the field and let them go.
I mean, look, I think this is all going to be determined by injury, because the Jets are going to be the worst team in the NFL this year, and Josh McCown, there's no question he's not going to be their quarterback whenever their future arrives. So I think you get him off the field as fast as you can. The point is, do Petty and Hackenberg get banged up? So the number of games that McCown will start, I'll put at 4. I don't see any reason in the world why when they're 0-4, why he would continue to be starting, and then you go from there. And the only reason he gets back in there, I would think, is if Hackenberg is just so bad that the veterans revolt, or if Petty gets hurt. So I'll put the number at 4. We'll go from there. Next, the Cavaliers scrapping plans for a $140 million renovation to Quicken Loans Arena is blank.
Businesslike, and I would say it on two. I don't know where they were because, again, the team hoped to host a future All-Star game. The league warned that if construction didn't start by next month, they wouldn't be considered. I don't know where they were. I don't know if they were going to have to rush it. Then that wouldn't be a smart business decision. And also, Gilbert's been signing a lot of checks, hasn't he? He's been paying a lot of luxury tax, a lot of checks. So maybe there's something not all that bad to taking a breath and not spending some money for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's irrelevant. Quicken Loans Arena is a perfectly lovely place. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's things they could do that would make more money. But we've both been to games there.
No. But they want to host an All-Star game. They want to bring that in, and the league is saying that you need some renovations, and they need to start next month. So, but I wouldn't want to get rushed into that.
Me neither.
So that's why I said business-like. It's a business decision.
Next, the Yankees resting Aaron Judge for a couple of days is blank.
Good for Aaron Judge. I mean, let him take a step back. I mean, some players just want to play and just want to play through it. I don't know Aaron Judge to know if he would rather still be out there playing, but, this is the feel from a manager saying, you know what, my guy needs to take a step back, sit on the bench for a little bit and just kind of collect himself.
He's hitting 179 and struck out 65 times since the All-Star break. I think it's probably the right decision, and it's going to have a lot of people looking back at that home run derby, Mike, and again, it probably coincidental.
Right.
But there's no question that comes up again next year when the Derby rolls around. The Royals not scoring a run in their past 43 innings is blank.
Pathetic. I mean, it really is pathetic. I mean, that's horrible. The 1968 Chicago Cubs and the 1906 Philadelphia Athletics hold a major league record at 48 innings. So the Royals are in shouting distance of that in their next game. So we'll see. But that's just pathetic.
Yep, I would use the word depressing. If you're a fan of that team, watching them play, that has got to be depressing. And that is Fill in the Blank, brought to you by Mahindra Tractors and Utility Vehicles. Mahindra USA, the world's #1 selling tractor. I'm very interested to see, because my notifications are just flying in with people who are sending us thoughts on this Rangers decision.
Home isn't just a place. It's a feeling that you're safe to enjoy the things that matter most. ADT lets you take that feeling with you, whether you're at home, your business, or online. We help keep you safe with security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling for less than $1 a day. ADT. Home, safe home.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump.
Oh, wait. Should we be like in tandem?
Tandem? That's a great idea.
Are you a certified instructor?
No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.
All right, overwhelming reaction to this conversation about the Rangers and their decision, and it seems to be a little bit on both sides, and I'm good with that, and so that's exactly what we wanted. So we'll go through a little bit of that in a few minutes. But first, Schefter is standing by and is ready to go with a lot of news out there in the NFL. Good morning, Schefter.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Good. We're doing well, not quite as well as Matthew Stafford. Let's start there. 5-year extension. You've reported it's $92 million in guaranteed money. Tell us about how this thing got to where it is and where it stands.
Well, a few things to keep in mind here. Number one, the conversations for this deal started at the owners' meetings back in March. They went all the way up to this week, and I happened to be in Detroit on Friday and could tell that the two sides were getting to a critical point. The season's coming close. It's about to open. They're not far apart on numbers. They continue to work at it over the weekend. And then last night, Matthew Stafford signed off on a deal that basically is a record-setting landmark deal in so many different ways. You mentioned the $92 million in guaranteed money, $27 million a year average, which beats Derek Carr, who got his deal recently this summer by an average of $2 million per year. $50 million signing bonus. And if you look at all the money in all the years, it's just mind-boggling to see the numbers where they are and how high they are. Now, if you look at it going forward, to me, this expands the quarterback market and makes it such that players like Drew Brees and Kirk Cousins, who are headed into the last year of their contract, are staring straight at the possibility of becoming $30 million a year kind of quarterbacks. And Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers, who are on the top of their game and don't have a long way to go in their deal, they're looking at also similar numbers. And I think the issue now is Matthew Stafford is a really good quarterback, but he's not the best quarterback in the game. And we're seeing the best quarterback in the game be overshadowed by guys like Matthew Stafford here. So we saw this in the offensive line with Brandon Linder of Jacksonville, a guy that a lot of people don't even know, becomes the highest-paid center. Now you're seeing Matthew Stafford become the highest-paid quarterback. And when the highest-paid guy at that position is not the best player in the league at that position, it creates a little bit of a discrepancy.
So as far as the whole deal, I don't believe Brees is going to beat that. Brees is going to be 38, 39 years old, so he may get a shorter deal, but for a lot of money.
A little bit different circumstances.
But let's go to Cousins. Does Cousins get a deal as good or better than Stafford's?
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt in my mind he will. And, again, you look at it, and the numbers on Stafford again, he's going to make, in the first year, $51 million. He's going to make $67 million in 2 years. He's going to make $87 in 3. So the guarantees are big, the numbers are big, but Kirk Cousins is leveraged like no one else ever has been in the league. 2 years of a franchise tag. Nobody's taking that risk at the quarterback position. He's bet on himself, and he's 1 year away from winning in a big way. If Kirk Cousins hits the open market, what does a team like Jacksonville, New York, San Francisco, the Los Angeles Rams, if Goff doesn't work out, what do one of those teams pay Kirk Cousins on the open market? He gets to basically name his price. And that price, I would imagine, would be somewhere around $30 million a year.
Yeah, he'll get a bidding war, which none of these other guys ever got to free agency, so they didn't get a chance to get. Okay, so there's Stafford. And again, for those of you just joining us, my opinion firmly, doesn't make any difference if he's the first best or the eighth best. When you have a guy who's as good as he is, you pay him, whatever it takes to keep him, and you win with him. That's my opinion. All right, next. Zeke Elliot appeal hearing today at NFL headquarters. What is your expectation relative to the hearing itself? And then if it goes the way a lot of people expect, which is that it doesn't get really markedly changed by Harold Henderson, where does the union go from there?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. And again, I think the issue here is you have to find a violation of the procedure. Tom Brady didn't have, in his eyes and the union's eyes, proper notice of the punishment. He was able to take that to court. Now, they need to find some flaw. And I guess there are some ways you could say, well, they didn't allow Zeke Elliott's notes to be entered into the appeal hearing. There are little things that they could do, depending on how the appeal goes, that they could do several things to delay it. And that'll become the issue that they will tackle after they hear the result of the appeal. And again, to your point, Greeny, I think most people don't think this appeal is going to be reduced much, if at all. I think that's the best and safest way to say it right now, right? Like maybe he gets a game knocked off, maybe, but I think the league is intent upon sending a very stern and clear message that none of this behavior, whether it happened or not, is going to be tolerated. And so let's just assume it stays at 6 games. Zeke Elliott could fight it. I think it's been proven in the past, we saw in the Brady case, that chances are he's not going to have a very good case. The circumstances are different, deflating balls and domestic violence. I mean, it's laughable to even compare the two of those incidents. But nevertheless, that's where we are at this point in time. And so he could challenge it, and maybe he will challenge it. But ultimately, I think that big suspension's coming, and it's just a question of when he's going to want to pay the piper.
Yeah, how quickly will Harold make this decision? Obviously, they need to know before week 1. So if the hearing is today, is it by the end of the week that we'll have a decision?
That's my sense of it. That's my sense of it, that we will get a quick decision. Look, keep in mind this week that every roster is in transition. Next week is Labor Day. The season opens a week from this Thursday. Everybody's on a tight time crunch, and I'm sure it'll be a lot for Harold Henderson to sift through, but my guess, and it's just a guess, would be that we get something by the end of the week, early next week. But again, with every team having to make roster moves, I'm sure Dallas wants an answer because they're going to have to cut down to 53 players from 90 by 4 o'clock on Saturday. And so when you do that, let's just say Elliott's on the roster, they may have to cut an extra player. They're not going to want to do that right now. No team wants to have to cut an extra player at this time of the year.
So I'm just trying to play this thing out in my mind. If the thing doesn't get knocked down, or let's say it only goes from 6 to 5, and the Cowboys want to try and take that, or the Union, more to the point, want to take that
Let's
to court.
leave it at 6. Let's leave it at 6.
Leave it at 6. Okay, that's the likeliest outcome. I'm with you. So now you want to take this thing to court, in which case he'll be eligible, most likely, to play Week 1 pending a hearing. But it would feel to me like the best, if you're going to ultimately lose him, the best time to lose him is the first 6 games of the season, right? Not for some decision to be made in the middle of the year where all of a sudden he's now suspended starting in November rather than the beginning of the year. Strategically speaking, if you resign yourself to the idea that he's going to be suspended, isn't it best to lose him, as the Patriots did last year with Brady, at the beginning of the year, know when he's coming back, and pick up whenever he returns and start from there? Do you follow what I'm saying, or does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I see exactly what you're saying. Again, I was told that they have to see how the appeal goes before they make any decisions about whether they're going to challenge it, when they want to challenge it. And I guess they could always, there can be things that could be done to delay or stay the suspension pending that proceeding. But it's just too early to tell right now. And until you know how the appeal goes, Zeke Elliott and his team can't attack the appeals decision because there is no decision right now. So we don't know how that's going to go. So we're speculating. We're really getting ahead of ourselves. I get it. We're going to do that. My guess is, they could challenge it. The chances are he's not going to be challenged. You might as well just take your medicine and get it over with. I think we'd all like to see something like that, but it's not our life, and it's not our paycheck, and it's not our situation, so we don't get to make that decision.
It's Adam Schefter with the very latest, as always. Thank you, Schefter. Have a great day.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, guys.
Schefter with us. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance, creators of the Name Your Price tool. Choose from a range of coverage options and pick the price that works for you. Mike, your thoughts.
So let's look at that. Do you want to be strategic? Do you want to, I get what you're saying, just get the games out of the way. Or do you try and get it to where you can play in the first game or two? Their first 3 games, Giants, at Broncos, at Cardinals. Those defenses' efficiency last year ranked 1st, 2nd, and 4th. After that, Rams, Packers, 49ers, 19th, 24th, 29th. So do you try and work it out where you can maybe play in the first couple of games? Because the difference with Zeke on the field and off the field is night and day for that team. So do you try and get it to where he can play the first 2 games and then miss, Arizona, Los Angeles, Green Bay, San Fran, Washington, Kansas City? You could start playing around with it a little bit. It's probably best to just take the 6, be done with it. But there's the thought process. Maybe get him on the field for those first couple games.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
And then just very quickly to finish up the discussion we were having on Matthew Stafford, I would think that the Lion fan, at least one who's been around longer than Stafford has been the quarterback, would be the first one to appreciate what he's done for you because he's made you a reasonable team since he got there. If I'm not mistaken, they were 0-16 before he arrived, and they have been the worst franchise in the sport for 50 years, and he's made them respectable. So, again, I think any fan who's criticizing this contract just doesn't know what it's like to root for a team that has no quarterback. Now let me go back to what you brought up about Zeke Elliott.
Right.
And the notion that maybe if you're the Cowboys, it's the union that has to appeal this, right? It's not the Cowboys themselves.
Well, no. It has to be Zeke wanting this to continue on.
And that would have to go through the union, though. It's not the Cowboys who would be taking the league to court.
It could be a number of things. It could be the Cowboys telling Zeke, fight it through the union. Could be, but right. Regardless, yes.
But my point is, the idea of trying to have him eligible, let's say, for the first 3 games because you're playing good defenses, then drop the appeal, timing that so that he would then play against lesser teams or miss games against lesser teams. I'm going to answer that question with a question to you. Wouldn't it be much better to just have him not there and then return and be there rather than starting, stopping, and starting again. It feels to me like you just get it out of the way, and then you start with all fresh, like you got him back and all that, rather than starting the season with him. Now you're going to lose him for 6 weeks. Now you're picking it up.
Not necessarily.
Again.
I mean, again, if he can help you beat teams like New York, which, by the way, New York beat him twice in the regular season, good defense, Denver, good defense, Arizona, good defense, then I don't know, maybe you think of it. He's gone for 6 games. It's not like you take a break for a week or two and then he's back.
Right.
It's 6. So, hey, why not? If you could play those first couple of games, is that worth doing? Do you play, say he gets 2? Do you play New York and Denver? Then you sit Arizona, Los Angeles, Green Bay, San Francisco, Washington, Kansas City. Do you sit those games? I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. I think I would rather just take the 6 and be done with it. But if they were to sit there and try and figure it out and say, you know what, would really love them on the field for these really good defenses. We have a better chance of winning against these better defenses with Zeke on the field, where we think we can get away with not having Zeke on the field for these defenses that aren't as good. So maybe we try and manipulate it a little bit.
Another way to look at it is their schedule is really backloaded relative to division games. So if he misses the first 6 games of the season, he only misses 1 game in the NFC East.
Right.
That's just the opening game against the Giants, who may, by the way, be playing without Odell. And then they would have him back.
If you did it my way, he would still only miss 1 game.
Correct.
Right.
That he would just miss the game against Washington. October 29th. One way or another, they could try and manipulate it that way. They probably won't.
I don't think they will. I don't think it's going down from 6. I think he's serving 6, and I think he serves it from week 1.
All right, let's read the Twitter reaction to the Rangers and Astros situation. All the Twitter through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Nothing makes a summer, birthday, or anniversary more magical than 1-800-Flowers.com. And right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you get another dozen absolutely free. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Again, a quick recap of the story. The Astros were supposed to play the Rangers this week in Houston and then next month in Arlington. The Astros asked if those could just be flip-flopped. The Rangers said no, saying they wanted to protect their season ticket holders, and also they didn't want 4 consecutive road series at the end of their season. That struck me as a ridiculously bad thinking there. So we just asked for people's perception before we kind of went off on it. So here are some tweets. Chris tweets, MLB should step in and make this swap. What about Houston season ticket holders that are losing God only knows how many games? This is sickening. Tim tweets, the Rangers offered to play them at home and offered to give them the money, and Houston said no, that's on them.
Yeah.
I'm looking for both sides. Mm-hmm. Mike tweets, Texas is being selfish. Doing the right thing was not what was done. Golden rule, always the golden rule. Zadi tweets, completely agree with you guys. Give me a break. They're 2 games under 500. I mean, I'm sitting here at the same time. I just opened up my Twitter feed, and the first thing I saw was a list of 26 Airbnbs in the area that are offering free housing to people who've been displaced from Houston.
Right.
Now, there's another one here that says it's not making anything better. Where was that one here? Yeah, Aaron tweets, one difference to consider. The Rangers wouldn't be sacrificing a home series to save a life or to raise money just to play baseball. Yes, we get that. I get that part of it.
Right.
You know, they're not turning their backs on that. They're just making a business decision.
And Monday Morning GM said the choice the Rangers made is completely understandable. They're not causing any additional harm to anyone. It's a game. I don't think this is ever about if anybody's getting caused harm to.
Well, they are causing the Astros now to lose out on home games.
They're going to miss out on home games.
The Astros fans will now not get those games. These Astros home games will now be played in Tampa.
It's not so much about the money, because that's been done before. If a team is displaced and they have to play at the other team's place, they usually give them the revenue of that like they were the home team. So from the money side of it, I get it. But it's the fans that could go to a game. Again, we have no clue what it's going to be like even a month from now in Houston. Certainly it's not all going to be back to normal. We know that. But just for the chance to have those games in Houston, I think is worth the flip. But
it feels to me like your initial reaction should be, what can we do to help?
What can we do to help?
Anything exactly you need here. Oh, you want to flip-flop our home series? That makes all the sense in the world.
So you can still have some games in Houston. If people want to come to those games, let's do it. Yeah.
You're protecting the Rangers season ticket holders. Give them some sort of, make them whole somehow. Give them rain
somehow,
checks.
I think, though, don't you think the Texas season ticket holders would understand what's going on here?
You'd like to think so.
Yeah.
I just have to believe there was a way of doing this without on its face, without having the Rangers refusing to play games, to flip these games and play their games in Houston next month, I think it looks terrible for the entire sport, and I really think someone should consider changing that mind. Back in a moment.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump.
Oh, wait. Should we be like in tandem?
Tandem? That's a great idea.
Are you a certified instructor?
No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.